Saat ini, Anda sedang mendengarkan Radio Era Baru. Green Radio Line, Beyond the Limit.
Hey, now you're listening Green Radio Line with me, Livia Collins, in Bumi Kita program. So today we have an exclusive interview with Tiza Mafira with the topic, is it possible to live without plastic? So she's speaking as a director of a plastic bag diet movement, or also known as a Gerakan Bebas Kantong Plastik. So she was awarded as a UN Ocean's Hero, in 2018 from United Nations Environment. And with Plastic Bag Diet Movement, she was successfully pushing for a nationwide trial of a change for plastic carrier bags, and the first to provide the technical assistance to more than 20 city governments to ban the single-use plastic. And also in 2019, the organization received the Mental Revolutions Award from the Indonesian government. And besides of that, she also one of the activists in a global documentary, The Story of Plastic, in 2019. So I would like to say thank you for your time. It's such a big honor for me to talk to the change maker just like you, and the great and amazing woman. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. Maybe we will learn a lot of things today from your story.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So maybe the first, I really want to ask, how are you there?
I'm good. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. So it's 2021. So this is a new page for all of us. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I would really want to know about your introductions, about your name and your current living, or maybe your activity lately.
Well, thank you for the introduction. I lead an organization called Gerakan Indonesia Diet Kantong Plastik. We have been established since 2013, and we focus on pushing for less use of single-use plastics. And for the past 7 or 8 years now, we've worked with government, we've worked with retailers, supermarkets, traditional markets to test new policies and push new regulations to phase out single-use plastic, starting from plastic bags, but also now moving into other kinds of single-use plastic.
Okay, amazing. So you are the directors of Gerakan Bebas Kantong Plastik, or a plastic bag diet movement. Yes. So what is it exactly, the plastic bag diet movement and its aspiration?
Yeah, so we call ourselves the plastic bag diet because as with any kind of diet, the philosophy is that we only use what we need. And just like a food diet where we only consume what's good for our bodies, plastic diet means that we only use the plastic that we actually need, that's necessary for our lives. Now, actually, plastic bags are not necessary. Single-use plastic bags are something that was invented quite recently, has been popular just recently, but in the past, in fact, in my parents' generation, we used to bring bags from our own house or baskets from our own house, and there was no problem with that at all. Now, because of it being necessary, we can actually go back to the way that we used to live, but it's actually urgent to do so because plastic bags, despite being unnecessary, have proliferated in a huge way. And most of the plastic that's polluting our rivers are in the form of plastic bags. And most of the plastic that's polluting the oceans and killing ocean creatures like whales and dolphins and turtles are also plastic bags. So it's really important that we stop using them.
Exactly. So amazing. So I'm really curious, what behind the story that made you touch and want to do something about the plastic pollution itself, and also decided to make this kind of movement?
I was a corporate lawyer before. I worked at a law firm for 6 years. I am a lawyer by profession. And it just, I was always focused on environmental law. But at the time, I wasn't really working on environmental law in my law firm. And I decided things had to change when one day I was stuck in the office. I was not able to go home because it was flooding outside my office. My office is in a very big protocol road, Jalan Sudirman, in Jakarta. And it occurred to me that one of the causes of the flood was that there was too much garbage that was clogging up the waterways. And that garbage comes from us. The garbage is mostly plastic garbage, and it comes from us. So the way to solve that would be to stop using it. And one of the first targets that I immediately popped up into my mind was plastic bags, because at the time it was being provided for free. Everybody was using it, and nobody was seeing a problem with it. And I asked retailers, I created a petition, and I asked retailers to stop providing it for free.
Yes, so amazing, the actions. And I'm really curious, like where is this movement firstly taken place? Is it in Jakarta, or there is a several city too?
It started in Bandung and Jakarta, because the co-founders of Gerakan Indonesia Diet Kantong Plastik are located in Bandung and Jakarta. But now we have activities in 6 cities across Indonesia, working directly with city governments in those 6 cities. And we also have influence to more than 20 cities across Indonesia that have now banned plastic bags.
Cool. And come to the topic today, that there is a lot of a movement which are talking about how badly the plastic impact to our environment. But why is that this problem is still happening today? Is it because it's impossible to live without plastic itself, or do we need a more collective and also more massive movement to make this problem come to the bright side? What do you think about that?
We need a change of system. So the movement itself is a movement that demands for a change to the system, but the system itself has not changed. We're chipping away at it. It's starting to change, but not as a whole. For example, we are starting to gain victory against plastic bags by banning it, but the ban applies to consumers and retailers, right?
Yep.
The ban applies saying that retailers are not allowed to give plastic bags to consumers, but the producers are still producing plastic bags. They can export it, maybe they can't sell it in Jakarta, but they can sell it to factories. Factories can use it to wrap clothes, food, bananas, whatever. So in order to fully solve the problem, we have to go from the upstream to the downstream, from the producers to the disposal. And we also need to cover all kinds of plastics, all kinds of single-use plastics, not just plastic bags.
Exactly. So from the things that you have been seeing, like how badly is that the situations about the plastic waste, especially in the big city like Jakarta, for the specific one, you already mentioned the brave one.
For big cities like Jakarta, it's very, very bad. The river, Ciliwung River, is very, very polluted, and most of the pollution that is visible is in the form of plastic bags. And it's impossible to clean up because it's already embedded in the riverbanks. So the left side and the right side of the river is already full of plastic bags. If you wanted to dispose of it, you would have to excavate the whole riverbank. You would just have to tear down the whole thing, which is quite impossible.
Yep.
And the problem is that the river leads to the ocean, and the ocean itself is extremely polluted with plastic already.
Yep.
Such that to the point that almost 100% of sea creatures contain plastic. They're eating plastic in one way or another. So it's also in our bodies as well. Most human beings now have microplastics in our bodies because it's everywhere. It's in our food, it's in our drinks. So because the problem is not just in big cities, it's in small islands, it's in rivers, it's in the high seas, shallow waters, deep waters, it's everywhere. So we really need to do something about it fast.
Exactly. So if we're looking at the plastic itself, you already mentioned about Ciliwung River, but the people that live around the Ciliwung River is, like have a limited access to the educations and the things like that. And they don't really cares about the waste maybe. But if we're talking about the people who have access to getting a good environment, and they think it was not a big thing to talk about a plastic or to using the plastic. But how do you see this? This is like a privilege that the rich one have about the situations of the plastic.
I don't think the problem is in the education gap. Sure, there needs to be more education. But I mean, I went to a good school. I'm quite privileged, but I was never taught how to compost. Yeah. I was never taught that recycling is a lie, that only 9% of plastic gets recycled worldwide. I was never told that.
Yeah.
So in order for, I mean, the system is broken. So you can fix education. There's a lot to do that we can do with education, but for example, I don't throw my trash in the river. I throw my trash in the bin. Like most educated people throw their trash in the bin. But it doesn't mean that trash gets to a recycling facility.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that none of that trash ends up in the ocean, because the waste management system is broken. People in rich countries think that they're doing so well.
Yeah.
People in Japan, in Germany think, oh, our streets are very clean. We're an educated, we're a rich society. We have no problem with waste. Now they know that their waste gets exported to Indonesia. So they've never been able to deal with their waste in the first place. They've just moved it to somewhere else. So I think that's one of the fundamental things that is broken about our system, is that the system is created to throw away waste, to dispose of waste, but there's no away. We're just moving the waste to a different place. And at some point, it's going to come back because there's no more space for it.
That's a great explanations, by the way. So talking about the plastic bag diet movement, we can change the plastic bag with the reusable bag. So, but what happens with the other single-use plastics, such as a food or stuff packagings, which we have to get it when we want to buy a stuff or a food itself?
If we're going out to buy food, we can bring our own containers. That's quite common in Indonesia. We have this system, it works well, called rantangan.
Yeah.
And we can still use that. It's a system that works well. And if we're going to the market, we need to buy fish or meat or chicken, we can bring plastic containers with a seal on it. And that's also quite easy. So there's really, it's not rocket science. We've been doing it for years. It's just that there's so much plastic now that it's hard to go back to that habit.
Yeah, exactly. If you are looking at the trend today, it's like many people using online shopping when they want to buy something. So it also produce a lot of plastic wrap. And yeah, it's just like a new problem lately. What do you think about this fact exactly?
online shopping is a new problem. So we definitely need a new solution for that. The problem with online shopping is that the customer doesn't have the authority to choose what kind of packaging the customer gets.
Yep.
So when we check out, we can choose, what kind of courier we want. Do we want it tomorrow, today, or in 3 days? But we're never given that option. What do you want it to be wrapped in?
Yep.
Because I would love to have that option. I would love to say, I don't want any bubble wrap. I don't want any plastic. I just need a cardboard and stuff it with newspaper if it's a fragile item. Unfortunately, there's not that option. Some online platforms are starting to provide that option, and I support those. They're my go-to places for shopping now. They know how to wrap things without plastic. It's quite, available. It's not hard to do, but that needs to be more mainstream. And so we need to push for more e-commerce sites to do the same.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got one quote that said, we can ban plastic while the corporations still produce it. But the question is that, do we really able to shifting from the one single-use plastic to other alternatives? Is that even possible?
Yeah, it is possible. We did it. We already did it.
Okay.
But it's not rocket science. We lived that way for about 50 years, 100 years before plastic was invented. So it's possible. But now with online shopping, now with global trade, now that goods are being sent to other countries, other cities, we need to think about the packaging for that.
Yep.
That means that it could still be plastic, but plastic that is definitely recycled, yep, or a high value plastic, or something that's a reusable plastic. Definitely not the types of plastic that is being used now for packaging, which are not recyclable, yep, mostly. So we need to have a revolution around that system.
Yep, exactly. So if I can say about my experience, like there is the time that I cannot not using plastic, and I accepted the plastic from the seller. But in case I save the plastic, and one day I can use it again, so it's not going to be waste. So what do you think about those kind of change or options?
Yeah, as long as you're using it multiple times. If you're just using it for trash, which means that you use it once and then you use it another one for your trash, and then it gets disposed of into the landfill, that's not reusable. That's not a multiple use item. You're only using it once for shopping, once for disposal. A reusable item is something that you keep, you use hundreds of times, you wash, you use again, you wash, you use again. And that a truly reusable item is an item that diverts hundreds to thousands of single-use items that could have been used instead of it. Every time you use your reusable bag 100 times, that means that's maybe 200 plastic bags that you're not using. Every time you go shopping, you get 2 plastic bags, right? Or every time you say no to a straw every single day for a year, that's 365 straws that you're not that you're diverting from the landfill or from the ocean. So reusability is something like that. It's strong, durable, and you use it again and again and again and again.
Yep, exactly. So when you're talking about the local area, like the regional area, like many people think it's easy to burn the plastic itself. Like why you are saying that it's hard to deal with the plastic waste when we can burn it just like that, and many people still burning the plastic. And what do you think about this effect?
It is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
The poison from plastic burning is extremely poisonous, extremely hazardous.
Yep.
And I hear that a lot. I hear people saying that they can burn plastic. I even hear school kids say that. Sometimes I, do a webinar with school children, with college kids from all over Indonesia, and they proudly tell me that they've started a project to reduce plastic by burning it.
Wow.
And I'm shocked. I mean, and then I say, well, is there just smoke come out? And they say, yeah, of course, smoke comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that smoke can kill you,
Mm-hmm.
I think the government isn't doing enough to tell people about this risk.
Yep.
And I think whatever involves burning, people should stay away from. Even compost, even organic material, even food shouldn't be burned. You should bury it, compost it properly and not burn it, because it's very poisonous to burn things.
Yep. But sometimes maybe it is because the educations or people not get the access to the information itself. Because when I taught to for example, my brother or even my parents about those kind of things, that they decline to follow the things that I said. It's just something that we do usually. So this is not a problem. So I think it's a little bit tricky for us to educate people about this kind of thing, because this is like a behavior change.
Yeah, even if they do know, if they decide they still want to do it, they'll do it, right?
Mm-hmm, yep.
Why I moved away from behavioral change a while ago. I moved away from educational campaigns a while ago and focused on policies instead. It's the same with smoking. I mean, no matter how many campaigns and scientific evidence that smoking is harmful for your health, people will do it anyway, even though they know it's harmful for your health. So what really works for a massive amount of people is clear policies.
Yep.
You're not allowed to smoke indoors, for example. Nobody smokes indoors. Yep. That's it. Same with plastic bags. Millions of people are aware that plastics harm the ocean, but it doesn't mean that they'll do something about it. As soon as you ban it, nobody uses it. That's it, done. Same with burning. I think there should be a clear policy against that.
Mm-hmm. So talking about the business of the plastic itself, how important is that the value of sustainability in order to turn the business or to run the business itself?
How important is what?
How important the value of sustainability in order to run the business? Is it a business of a plastic or the alternative of plastic?
Well, the business, it's very important to run a sustainable business. So whatever you have, whatever business that you are running, you need to make sure that you're running it sustainably, in the sense that you are energy efficient and you are waste efficient. You don't, generate a lot of emissions. You don't generate a lot of waste.
So it means
minimize those things. Mm-hmm. But in terms of production and manufacturing, if this is an industry that's based on fossil fuels, yeah, for example, it's an oil industry, it's a coal industry, or it's a plastic industry. Plastic is based on fossil fuels. It's made from oil. That's just never going to be sustainable, ever. Mm-hmm. It has to go. It's a sunset industry. Mm-hmm. We are now the world now is moving towards renewable energy, and is moving towards a circular economy, which means that every single resource that goes into manufacturing and production needs to be non-virgin material. Yeah, it needs to be made from recycled material. that comes back into the production and gets made into new goods. We cannot sustain an economy that keeps extracting oil, extracting coal, turning it into new material, disposing it, and then extracting again new things, disposing it. If that keeps on happening, we'll be finished. Yeah, our natural resources will be finished, and we'll end up with a huge pile of waste on the other end. So that's why that's linear economy thing can't work. So if you're an industry that works on extracting things from this end, you are a sunset industry. It's not going to be sustainable.
So if we're talking about the government, you already said about the policies and etc. So how important is that the will of the government to solve when we're talking about the plastic problem?
It's very important. It's very important. And most of the gains that we've seen with our campaigns to ban plastic bags is because of the support of the government and because we managed to get the support of the government. So none of this would happen if we didn't manage to push these policies. Policies are government made. You can't make policies if you're not government. So government is the key. And it's very important for people, for civil society to have close communications with government.
Amazing. So we already talking about the broader issues about the topic today. So dan sekarang mungkin sudah saatnya kita berbicara juga nih peralihan dari bahasa Inggris ke bahasa Indonesia untuk pendengar nasional kita nih mengenai isu plastik sendiri Kak di dalam negeri. Sebelumnya sangat ingin memuji nih gerakan yang dilakukan oleh Kakak dan tim di diet kantong plastik. Membuat Indonesia melek nih dan juga mulai meninggalkan plastik itu sendiri. Dan jika melihat Jakarta saat ini yang melarang tentang penggunaan kantong plastik sekali pakai dan beralih ke reusable bag seperti kain begitu, bagaimana nih Kak perubahan ini juga bisa dicapai oleh daerah lain, sejauh apa nih yang bisa dilakukan oleh kita yang tinggal di daerah supaya pemerintah juga memberlakukan peraturan ini di daerah-daerah tertentu yang belum diberlakukan begitu?
Yang pertama sih mungkin kalau dari segi pandang masyarakat sipil ya, misalnya ada komunitas pemuda, komunitas apapun lah, komunitas ibu-ibu gitu. Sebenarnya bisa bicara dengan pemerintah atau bisa bicara dengan pengusaha ya. Pengusaha ini bisa pengusaha tradisional, bisa pasar gitu ya, bisa juga pengusaha modern, bisa supermarket, minimarket gitu, untuk mencoba kolaborasi. Bisa nggak sih kolaborasi dengan pasar tradisional? Bisa nggak kolaborasi dengan supermarket? Untuk tidak lagi menyediakan plastik sekali pakai, kemudian masyarakat akan membantu menggaungkan itu. Gitu. Masyarakat akan karena pemerintah, baik pemerintah maupun pengusaha itu senang kalau didukung masyarakat gitu. Itu kan konstituen ya, masyarakat itu konstituen, atau bagi pengusaha masyarakat itu konsumen gitu. Jadi ketika ada kolaborasi antara masyarakat dengan pengusaha atau masyarakat dengan pemerintah, itu akan terlihat besar. Terlihat ada gerakan. Beda dengan kalau misalnya masyarakat gerak sendiri nih. Masyarakat gerak sendiri gitu ya. Tapi kayak nggak ada kolaborasi, nggak didengerin gitu sama pengusaha, nggak didengerin sama pemerintah, itu jadi nggak kelihatan kayak gerakan besar. Gitu. Gerakan itu akan besar ketika ada kolaborasi. Apalagi kalau kolaborasinya ada bertiga nih. Pengusaha iya, pemerintah iya, masyarakat sipil juga iya, langsung kerja bareng gitu. Saya kasih contoh misalnya masyarakat bisa berperan sebagai misalnya ibu-ibu PKK nih misalnya. Yuk kita bikin tas belanja sendiri gitu. Kita ajak nih pengrajin kita untuk bikin keranjang gitu. Keranjang anyaman, kemudian kita bagikan gratis deh, tapi melalui supermarket ini gitu. Jadi supermarket ini kerjasama sama PKK, tidak menyediakan kantong plastik, tapi menyediakan keranjang anyaman dari pengrajin lokal gitu. Itu kan cantik ya. Nah, kelihatan ada kolaborasinya, bisa undang pemerintah untuk membuka acara itu, launching itu, sembari meminta pemerintah tolong dong dukung yang kegiatan-kegiatan kayak gini, bikin dong kebijakannya supaya nggak ada lagi kantong plastik. Jadi kayak gitu. Nah itu cuma satu ide, tapi ada banyak sekali ide-ide yang bisa dikembangkan sesuai dengan ini ya, sesuai dengan konteks lokal di kota masing-masing.
Mm-mm. Kan kalau misalnya gerakan yang udah kakak bangun itu udah terbilang lama kan, dan untuk adanya regulasi itu juga perjuangannya pasti panjang dan lama banget ya kak ya. Dan gimana tuh kalau misalnya di satu kota memang belum ada gerakan seperti ini gitu loh. Apa yang harus dimulai agar bisa sampai ke titik itu? Itu tuh buat bingung banget sebenarnya.
Gerakan kan harus punya teman ya.
Mm-hmm.
Jadi kalau misalnya cuma satu orang nih gitu, aduh aku tuh peduli banget, cuman gimana ya caranya bikin gerakan gitu kan? Ya berarti harus cari teman. Tapi pasti ada juga yang peduli. Jadi memang harus pertama harus vokal, harus menyuarakan kepeduliannya supaya kedengeran sama orang-orang yang ternyata punya kepedulian yang sama. Kedengeran, saling saut menyaut, bikin komunitas gitu ya. Ternyata kita peduli ya dengan urusan plastik. Yuk kita bikin kumpul-kumpul dulu deh, kumpul-kumpul seminggu sekali. Mungkin dari kumpul-kumpul lama-lama jadi komunitas. Dari komunitas lama-lama bikin kegiatan, bikin kampanye. Jadi deh gerakan, ya kan? Jadi memang harus mulai dari kita berani vokal gitu ya, menyuarakan aspirasi kita.
Nah, kalau berani vokal ini kita menggunakan platform seperti apa nih yang menurut kakak tepat dengan perjuangan kakak yang sebelum-sebelumnya?
Sekarang platform banyak sekali ya. Platform online banyak. Bisa pilih deh mau platform apa gitu. Sosmed aja ada berapa platform. Kalau saya sih waktu itu mulanya pakai petisi online di change.org. Habis itu dari petisi banyak menyuarakan di Twitter. Habis dari Twitter banyak menyuarakan juga di udah sih itu aja, karena ini 7 tahun yang lalu ya, belum terlalu besar Instagram. Tapi dari 2 itu kemudian masuk ke media mainstream ya. Jadi bikin press release, masuk ke media, mengundang wartawan gitu. Dari situ mulai ketemu teman-teman yang punya aspirasi yang sama, dan justru karena membuat petisi itu aku jadi kenalan sama teman-teman, dan kita akhirnya sepakat membentuk gerakan Indonesia Diet Kantong Plastik gitu. Padahal tadinya aku nggak kenal siapa-siapa gitu. Jadi platform sih apa aja lah gitu. Yang penting itu memang platform yang bisa mempertemukan kita dengan teman-teman di wilayah kita yang memiliki aspirasi yang sama.
Nah, kalau misalnya berbicara tentang gerakan yang kakak bangun nih di diet kantong plastik, seperti apa sih kak pengorbanan yang udah kakak lewati nih selama kurang lebih beberapa tahun ini yang mungkin bisa di-share ke teman-teman?
Pengorbanannya waktu, karena ini selama 7 tahun ini nggak main-main sih, menyita waktu hampir kayak kerjaan. Jadi saya punya pekerjaan ya, day job gitu, yang beda urusannya masih lingkungan juga tapi perubahan iklim.
Iya.
Dan pada saat itu saya juga memimpin gerakan Indonesia Diet Kantong Plastik. Jadi sekitar 50% waktu saya tuh untuk diet kantong plastik, 50% waktu untuk pekerjaan. Tapi nggak ada yang tahu, nggak ada yang tahu. Jadi maksudnya nggak ada yang tahu tuh, maksudnya tahu, cuman nggak tahu seberapa sih bisa membagi waktu gitu. Jadi dipikirnya, oh Tiza nih kayaknya 100% nih di kantor gitu, tapi juga Tiza kayak 100% di diet kantong plastik gitu. Jadi sebenarnya nggak ada yang tahu seberapa besar sih. Aku sering begadang, sering kerja weekend gitu. Ya memang itu pilihan hidupku gitu, dan aku nggak nyesal sama sekali gitu. Tapi ya memang nggak mudah, dan banyak waktu, pikiran, dan tenaga yang harus dikeluarkan kalau mau serius dan konsisten.
Nah, yang kayak Kak bilang tadi nih, konsistensi itu yang sulit ya Kak. Kadang memang kita sudah mempunyai tujuan yang baik nih, tapi pas jalannya kok kayaknya pasti Kakak juga pernah ngerasain ini nih. Apa sih hal yang ngebuat Kakak tetap konsistensi untuk gerakan ini sendiri di saat banyak kerjaan lain, atau kita juga butuh waktu libur, tapi waktu libur juga tersisa gitu?
Konsistensi itu bukan soal ini ya, bukan hukuman ya, kayak rasanya bukan kayak terpaksa gitu. Konsistensi itu lebih kepada aku berusaha untuk memikirkan hal lain tapi nggak bisa gitu. Aku berusaha untuk nggak peduli gitu ya, nggak sepeduli ini tapi nggak bisa gitu, karena aku terlalu peduli gitu. Jadi mau nggak mau ya udah gitu kepikiran. Karena kepikiran ya udah harus ada yang dikerjakan gitu. Karena nggak bisa aku membiarkan ini masalah ini berlarut-larut seperti ini. Gitu. Seperti itu sih yang membuat konsisten. Bukan ini ya, bukan karakterku yang unik gitu, bukan yang Tiza ambisius, nggak gitu. Cuman karena peduli ya mau nggak mau harus melakukan sesuatu gitu.
Benar. Kayak misalnya Livia juga sebelumnya juga nggak tahu tentang informasi plastik, dan waktu itu dapat bagaimana sih sampah plastik itu sendiri di gerakan Bye Bye Plastic Bag tuh Kak. Dan mereka memperlihatkan gimana gunung sampah itu, dan mulai tertarik tentang plastik dan juga belajar tentang zero waste lifestyles, dan akhirnya memang nggak bisa gitu di saat ada sampah plastik aja ngelihat, terus orang di satu kuliner ya semuanya menggunakan single use plastik, terus kita tuh kayak waktu nongkrong aja mikir aduh gitu, kayak sakit gitu kepala kan Kak, tapi masih belum nemuin hal yang bisa gue bagi selain ya pendapat doang, selain ini nih nggak baik loh sebenarnya, ya paling sama temen terdekat. Itu tuh Kak, sering banget kalau misalnya ya hal-hal begitu terjadi.
Kalau soal apa yang bisa dilakukan sih, aku selalu bilang fokus pada kamu jagonya apa gitu. Jangan tanya aku bisa apa, tapi aku jagonya apa gitu dalam kehidupan. Karena nggak cuma isu plastik aja, isu apapun, kalau kita mengaplikasikan skill set kita, itu pasti bisa membuat sesuatu perubahan.
Benar.
Jadi kalau aku kan pribadi lawyer, jadi pada saat melihat masalah ini juga melihatnya dari perspektif seorang lawyer ya. Mau nggak mau, karena itu skill set aku. Jadi melihatnya, ini peraturannya nggak ada nih yang kayak begini-begini. Padahal di luar negeri udah banyak peraturan kayak begini. Kenapa di Indonesia nggak ada? Apa yang menjadi masalah, apa yang bisa diubah, siapa yang bisa berwenang membuat peraturan seperti ini. Jadi karena aku mengaplikasikan ilmu yang memang aku pelajari dan aku dalami, jalan gitu. Di semua aspek kehidupan juga seperti itu. Nah, kalau misalnya orang jagonya apa ya, aku nggak jago apa-apa, paling jago apa ya, akuntan gitu, apa sih akuntan bisa apa gitu misalnya. Akuntan bisa riset, ikut membantu riset mengenai jumlah volume sampah, ini nyambung nggak sih sampah di sini sama di tingkat konsumen, di tingkat produksi, sama sampah di tingkat pembuangan gitu. Suka angka gitu kan, coba deh ikut bantu-bantu riset-riset komunitas gitu, siapa tahu kita bisa mempublikasikan sesuatu riset yang kemudian bisa didengar sama pemerintah. Jagonya jago desain gitu, aku sukanya seni gitu, desain. Ya udah, aku nggak bikin instalasi seni atau bikin fashion show yang meng-highlight bahayanya plastik gitu. Selama kita melakukan kegiatannya di kantong plastik tuh udah bekerja sama dengan berbagai macam profesi dan semuanya jago gitu ya dalam bidangnya, dan itu membuat gerakan kita tuh jadi kaya karena kita benar-benar men-tackle isu ini dari semua sudut pandang gitu. Dan ya itu karena orang-orang mengaplikasikan ilmunya masing-masing.
Keren banget. Nah Kak, kalau misalnya boleh keluarin unek-unek nih cerita sama Kakak ya, tanggapan Kakak gimana? Sering banget kalau misalnya teman-teman ya yang Livia kasih tahu misalnya about how badly the plastic it was, mereka itu bukannya menerima dengan baik informasi yang diberikan, tapi lebih ke mengejek sih, lebih ngolok gitu kayak SJW lu gitu loh, social justice warrior, ngomong kejauhan kayaknya. Ya udah kita ngobrol di sekitar sini aja gitu loh. Gimana sih cara bawa informasi ini nih lebih packagingnya tuh lebih oke untuk ke teman-teman kita atau orang-orang di sekitar. Jadi mulai melek dan sadar juga nih, oh iya benar juga ya, tapi tidak berkesan mengajarkan begitu. Kalau saran dari kakak gimana?
Tergantung dinamika pertemanan gitu, tapi aku sendiri sih nggak pernah memaksa teman-temanku untuk berubah.
Oke.
Teman-teman, keluarga, orang tua itu aku nggak pernah memaksa mereka untuk berubah karena ya skopnya terlalu kecil satu. Targetku lebih luas gitu.
Keren.
Yang kedua, aku agak skeptis sih orang mau berubah ya. Pada dasarnya orang tuh nggak mau berubah gitu. Jadi kecuali kepaksa. Jadi nggak mau, mungkin mau, cuman nggak langsung gitu. Nggak langsung, maksudnya kamu berubah dong hari ini, nggak mungkin. Jadi kita ngasih taunya dari sudut, dari kiri, dari kanan, terus besokannya lagi dari belakang, besokannya lagi dari depan. Dia terima itu dari channel, oh dia buka WhatsApp dia lihat apa, oh dia buka berita dia lihat apa, buka sosmed dia lihat apa, terus pesannya datang bertubi-tubi baru deh mungkin berubah ya. Gitu. Tapi orang tuh nggak akan berubah ketika misalnya kita bilang itu nggak bagus loh, berubah dong gitu. Itu jarang sih menurutku ya. Jadi aku sendiri lebih memilih yang indirect itu tadi, approach yang indirect. Jadi gimana caranya isu ini lebih banyak digaungkan oleh media. Gimana caranya isu ini lebih banyak diomongin sama pejabat di kota di mana aku tinggal. Gimana caranya isu ini lebih banyak diajarkan di sekolah misalnya. Jadi yang lebih kayak indirect gitu. Apalagi kalau udah jadi kebijakan gitu ya, gimana caranya ada kebijakan langsung wah orang semuanya nanya, kayak waktu itu yang kantong plastik berbayar kan itu dalam sehari tuh, maksudnya tiba-tiba 200 juta orang ya di 27 kota di Indonesia langsung kaget, oh kenapa kantong plastik harus bayar sekarang gitu, dulu nggak ada masalah gitu, langsung kayak kenapa gitu. Jadi yang awalnya bener-bener nggak kepikiran sama sekali soal kantong plastik, tiba-tiba kepikiran gitu karena ada kebijakan kan.
Iya benar.
Gitu. Indirect, bukan aku yang ngomong.
Gitu. Jadi langkah kayak gitu bisa dikatakan efektif juga ya Kak ya. Jadi pelan-pelan gitu ya ngebuat.
Ya, nah jadi kalau udah banyak gaungnya, udah cukup terdengar, udah cukup mainstream, kayak isu plastik kan sekarang udah cukup mainstream.
Benar.
Sekarang kalau kumpul sama teman-teman ada yang pakai sedotan ya, aku agak santai aja gitu, maksudnya nggak ada yang pakai sedotan, yang nggak ada ya gitu aja, maksudnya lebih nggak usah terlalu serius, tapi aku udah cukup pede bahwa kalau gue bilang nggak ada yang boleh pakai sedotan, nggak ada yang pakai sedotan, pasti pada paham kenapa gitu. Nggak usah nanya-nanya lagi kenapa nggak pakai sedotan gitu kan. Karena aku udah tahu media udah menggaungkan, terus gubernur juga udah sering ngomong gitu.
Oke. Terus terakhir nih Kak, closing statement atau pesan Kakak untuk pendengar Green Radio Line yang sekarang mendengarkan interview kita.
Tolak plastik sekali pakai. Karena kita udah bumi kita udah diambang ya kepenuhan gitu ya dengan sampah plastik, dan laut kita juga udah sangat-sangat tercemar dengan plastik. Hal yang paling bisa kita lakukan adalah untuk menolak plastik sekali pakai, karena plastik sekali pakai itu adalah sekitar 50% dari total plastik yang diproduksi. Dan jangan berhenti pada diri sendiri, mulai pengaruhi lingkungan kamu, mulai pengaruhi pengusaha-pengusaha di sekitar kamu, dan pemerintah kota di tempat kamu berada.
Terima kasih banyak nih Kak Tiza untuk waktunya dan cerita luar biasanya yang dibagikan ke kita dan pendengar Green Radio Line tentunya kita bisa banyak banget belajar dari gerakan yang kakak buat, dan mungkin ini juga bisa menginisiasi banyak gerakan-gerakan serupa di berbagai daerah. Terima kasih banyak untuk waktunya Kak. Stay healthy, keep the good work, and also keep inspiring people to take actions on plastic pollution.
Banyak Livia. Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Saat ini, Anda sedang mendengarkan Radio Era Baru, Green Radio Line, Beyond the Limit.